Hello, Joan. This is Levette, and this is page 2 to my letter to you. On page 1, I was talking about starting school, and I loved it. I had made friends for the first time. I'd never had friends before. I didn't really get along with my siblings at all, and so this was great to me. I was interacting on levels that I'd never gotten to. I'd learned to play jacks and marbles, and I loved recess. I thought it was great. I liked being in class. I was the top student, so I always got called on. I always had the answers, and for the first time in my life, somebody told me I was good. And so I was up and ready every morning, ready to go. So when my parents got called into the school, uh, it didn't go well for me. The teachers had already pulled me out of the class and tested me without telling my parents, and I had done really well. And they were a bit concerned about what I was sharing with the other students. Um, but I seemed normal in every other way. I would interact with them. I was smart. My work was always perfect. I was straight A's, A pluses. I didn't want to see an A minus. That was unacceptable to me. I needed my work to be perfect, and it was. But my favorite part about school was the friends. I was finally able to interact with somebody besides the animals and the spirits. But what I was telling the children was upsetting to the teachers and very upsetting to my mother. And they wanted to move me out of the first grade into some higher grades. They thought I would fit in better. I would be more functional and I could learn. I wasn't really learning anything. I was more teaching the class than I was learning it. I already knew the subject. So my mother's idea to fix this problem was to move me from public schools. She wanted more control and didn't want the system involved. So I was moved to private schools around children who came from very different families than I did. These were what you would kind of consider uppity people. At least they were to me. They were all dressed so much better than I was. I was a girl off the plantation. I wasn't a city girl. I wasn't dressed like one. I didn't talk like one. I didn't act like one. I played in mud pies, so there was dirt under my fingernails, and my hair was never combed, and I just really didn't fit in. I was better in public school. My grades were there. I was always the top student, but I didn't make friends like I did in the other school, and I felt isolated again. Well, that was it for me. That was when I decided to do the I'm starving myself to death thing. But how was I going to do it? And it was the time of the year the cotton was getting pretty high in the field, and it was really green, and I knew I could hide it. Once they sprayed it and it turned all brown, they would be able to find me. But I was going to walk down this row of cotton and just throw myself under some of the plants. You could hear them coming. You could see them down the rows and just crawl from one row to the other was my idea until finally I just died. And then I knew that's how you got out of the body. That I understood. And I was bawling my eyes out. I had come home from school that day. The girl in front of me in class had asked the teacher, could she go to the bathroom? And I was fixing to ask the exact same question. And she told the little girl no. So I didn't ask. And I peed on myself in the desk that day. And the teacher asked me later why didn't I ask to go, and I explained to her, well, you had told so and so she couldn't go, so I felt that I too would be rejected, so I didn't bother to ask. And she informed me that the little girl asked to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes, and if I needed to go I should speak up. I'm not one to speak up. I was very intimidated by the whole situation I was in. So I went home smelling like pee and decided that was the day, that this was it. The humiliation was more than I could bear, and off down the cotton row I went. I was heartbroken. I was broken to the core. My soul couldn't bear any more. I got as far as I could go, and I just flung myself down into the dirt, crying my eyes out. At this very moment that I hit the dirt and a big poof went up, and dirt in the air, I heard this voice. It was a man's voice, not the same one as the sun. This one was different. And it said to me, "If you don't want your life, I'll take it." And I instantly thought, well, you can have it, because there's no part of this world that I want. There's nothing here for me. I would rather be in oblivion. And I understood oblivion to be the place where you go that's complete darkness. There's no light, and you are completely alone eternally with nothing but you and your thoughts. And I would rather go there. You can have this body, this life, whatever you want to call it, and let me check out. And this being picked me up. This masculine being picked me up, and he held me by the hands, and he started dancing with me in circles. This beautiful white, yellow, glow light just emanated from him. It just was everywhere. As he held me by the hands, and we spun in circles, circles within circles, as we danced through these rows of cotton. And wave after wave of this immense love that I had not even experienced where I was before I came into this body. I knew what love was, but not on this level. I had never felt so much love, so wanted, so at peace. Everything was perfect. I wanted that existence. It was wonderful. And this went on for quite a while, this dance of just light and love. And it was so warm. And he set me back down and kind of dusted me off and told me it was time to go back. And I said, no, I'm not going back. I will go into oblivion. You can do whatever you want to. You can send me anywhere but here. You can put me in the sleep. I understood there was a place that you just go into non-consciousness. It's like being in a state of sleep. And I would go there, but I wasn't going back. And he said to me, I stand in the gap for you between life and death. If you care so little for your life, then why not give it for a cause? He said, there are 4 children there that are suffering the same thing you are. If you care so little, why not give it for them? I stand in the gap for you. You should stand in the gap for them, even if it kills you. And immediately I knew that was the right answer. Absolutely. Either that ends the problem one way or the other. Either the problem gets fixed, or I stand in the gap till it kills me and I'm out of here. And that I needed to tell somebody what was going on in that house. I had never revealed that. I had never told of the abuse that was occurring to us. I was afraid to tell my mother because of a previous event where I had told and it went bad for me, at least in my eyes. So I wasn't fixing to do it for myself. I knew it would only get me a beating, but I thought I would, I'm going to take the beating or whatever comes at me, but this stops now. I'll tell the people at school, I'll tell the bus driver, I'll tell anybody that'll listen to me, but I'm going to start screaming what's going on. And this one person in particular that was the major part of the abuse was coming from was our nanny. She was allowing men to come in the house, and I don't think I need to say any more than that. And I wanted her gone. And as I walked back down this cotton row headed toward the house, there she was, the only person in my sight. And she was doing what I would call a Holy Ghost dance. Her arms were flaying in the air, and she was flinging her body around like she was possessed with some demon, and crying and screaming and just having this god-awful fit, and she was pointing in my direction behind me. And I thought, my goodness, what is a cotton monster or something behind me? What is she so upset about, so terrified of? And I whirled around to see what cotton monster was fixing to get me, and the sky was full of smoke. It's all you could see. Her house was several miles off in the distance across these cotton fields. A little speck in the sky in the distance under some trees, and all you seen was smoke coming from it. Her house was up in flames. I never saw that woman again. Before I even got to the end of the row of the cotton where she was at, my dad had come flying up in his truck, picked her up, and took her to her family. I never saw her again. After that event, we no longer had a nanny, which inconvenienced my mother to no end. And she wanted off the farm. She wanted to be a city girl and forced my dad to move. And he went to work overseas, which left us completely with her, and she moved us to the city, which was not good for me. Things got even worse. And I've already conveyed to you the near-death experience where I drowned in the swimming pool, which is the next event. And I'm going to repeat that for you so that the record's just kept straight in chronological order, because now the near-death experiences begin to happen once I reach this place. I've gone through all these major spiritual experiences with these sentient beings, this one that stands in the gap. One thing more I say about the one that stands in the gap was a few days after this, before we moved from this place, while all this chaos was still going on, I went back out into that field. And he returned to me, but in a slightly different manner. I'll explain. He came to me and told me that I could have anything I wanted. That what did I want from this world? What did I want from my life? And I thought, well, that's just a very strange thing to ask me. And my understanding, he already knew what I wanted. One thing I want out of here. There's no love here. And he told me anything I wanted. And I repeated to him what I had before. I don't want to be here. There's nothing you can give me from this world. There's nothing. Love is the only thing there really, really is, and I'm not finding it here. And I realized at that moment that this was not the same being. The appearance was the same. The voice was the same. But I was one who knew the expression of emanation off of a being. An empath, they call it. And this being did not emanate love. Not like the first time. They could have been twins in every way, except for the first one. His light and love was like the sun, and the second one was no more than flipping a switch on a light bulb. That was the difference between them, between their levels of love and compassion and caring and giving and total selflessness. It was all about give. What an incredible loving being this one was. Was it Jesus? I don't know. Is he the one that stands in the gap? To me, this was the most powerful being I've ever met in the universe. The most loving. It's all in his hands. He's the one in the gap between life and death. And I'm glad he's there. I'm glad to know he's there. I'm glad to know he has the power he's got. On